Hey everybody, Mackenzie Lambert here, your host for Making the Movies, joined here by our frequent collaborator and comrade, John Cleveland.
Hi, everybody.
And this is another installment of the Three Tenors. This is going to be an interesting one. This is the top 10 actor-director partnerships.
Yeah, this will be really interesting. I think we're going to have a lot the same, but I'm very interested in the periphery of these lists.
Yeah, let's go ahead and set the standard and see exactly what Mr. Hill has in mind for this particular list.
Sure.
Occasionally, a director and actor capable of getting the very best from each other are lucky enough to strike up an ongoing relationship. Sometimes they share a common ethos, sometimes there's a chasm between them, and it's the conflict that produces the magic. So either these guys really get along, or there's art from adversity.
Okay. I instantly know the art from adversity pick in my list. And I think it's in yours too.
There's going to be quite a few, yeah. Yeah, I can see, yeah. Okay, let's go ahead and see what we have here from Mr. Hill. Number 10, Jack Lemmon and Billy Wilder, which, okay, yeah, these two guys did some really great movies. The Apartment, just a comedy classic. Some Like It Hot, what many people consider to be one of the greatest comedies of all time.
Yeah, that's a good one.
All right, let's... number
right. I didn't see that one. I didn't think about it.
Yeah. Number 9, Marcello Mastroianni and Federico Fellini. I've only seen one Fellini film, and I saw it when I was sick, and it was just not a good experience for me overall. So I don't really have much to say about Fellini and Mastroianni.
Yeah, I'm positive I probably have in over the course of my years, but I can't think of any off the top of my head. So yeah, interesting.
Number 8, John Wayne and John Ford.
Because of course they are. You don't get to be in 30 movies. You don't put an actor in 30 of your movies and not have it appear on one of these lists.
Some of the definitive westerns of the 50s and 60s.
Yes, yeah, 100%. Created a genre.
Number 7, Max von Sydow and Ingmar Bergman, which, oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, 100%. Mm-hmm. So, some of the most masterfully made films. If the definition of a film that cares more about its message and what you're looking at, the actual art of film, than it does about entertainment, if that makes any sense.
Oh yeah, and just The Seventh Seal and The Virgin Spring, the influence those two films alone have had is just remarkable.
Yeah, you hear about The Virgin Spring, so many directors are like, this is either the greatest film ever made, or I was highly influenced by it. Yeah, 100%.
Mm-hmm. Number 6, Alec Guinness and David Lean. Probably the one that I'm most familiar with is Bridge over River Kwai.
Yep. Mm-hmm. Wow. Yeah, I didn't even think of him. Wow. Now I'm thinking about it. Ooh, that should have been on my list. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a solid choice.
Here's another one. Okay, number 5, Diane Keaton and Woody Allen.
Yeah, I don't
say which. Yeah, I know we don't really think highly of Woody Allen now, but in the 1970s, it's just
you keeping his personal life out of the whole thing. I just never liked any of his films. I don't see it. It's the one. It's not the one. It's one of the big ones where people are like, oh, he's so great. I'm like, I have never seen a film I thought was even half good.
I don't know. It's an acquired taste. I will definitely admit to that.
Yeah. So all right, it's your own, I guess.
Okay, number 4. Okay, this is one I'm not familiar with. Sasuke Hara and Yasujiro Ozu. This is for Tokyo Story.
Huh. I am unfamiliar.
Let me go ahead and see. Okay, Ozu's square, static lens, the simple straight lines of classical Japanese homes, the understated humanistic acting, it all comes together perfectly to leave the viewer feeling almost soothed or contented. Hara usually played the daughter in Ozu's films, which were often about the everyday challenges facing ordinary families in changing Japan. The stunning actress made few films, never married, and retired young, ensuring she would become an inviolable, legendary figure to a generation of Japanese.
Yeah, I've heard of Tokyo Story, but I've never seen it. Maybe I'll have to add it to the queue. Yeah.
All right. Oh, here's a big one. Number 3, Klaus Kinski and Werner Herzog.
Yeah, you know that adversary thing you was
Yeah,
talking about?
big time.
Yeah. No actor and director have ever had as tumultuous a relationship that didn't end in death as these two.
Mm-hmm.
Klinsky actually held a gun to his head at one point during filming. And they completed filming. It's yeah. So.
Oh, yeah. And it's just funny now, considering that we think of Werner Herzog as a director, but now he's really become an actor in his own right lately in the past couple of years.
He's an interesting character. I think it's one of those things where just eventually the director's like, "Hey, man, do you want to be in my movie? Because you're inspired me and you're great." And he goes, "Yeah, why not?"
Mm-hmm. I still think one of the biggest jokes I've had was when Logan, the Richard E. Grant character. I'm always wondered, okay, did he just basically imitate Werner Herzog for that performance? So
probably.
All right, okay. Oh, all right. We're gonna number 2, Robert De Niro and Martin Scorsese, because of course.
Because of course.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there's nothing. I don't even know what else to say. Because of course.
Yeah, there's nothing else to say about that.
Yeah.
All right, and last one, Toshiro Mifune and Akira Kurosawa. Yeah, we're talking Seven Samurai, just
Yojimbo, The Hidden Fortress, Rashomon. Yeah, and I'm not pronouncing that wrong, but yeah, no, 100%, absolutely.
So yeah, a lot of art house choices there. We wouldn't expect any less from Mr. Hill. So
no, that was a list I don't want to say I saw coming, but that was definitely a list that made sense to me for him. With one exception, I have one on my list that he didn't have that I am very surprised about.
Yeah, I've got 1 or 2 of those myself. So all right, John, we'll go ahead and we'll see what are your top 10 actor-director partnerships.
Okay, starting with number 10, John Ford and John Wayne. The Man Who Shot Liberty Valance, which I think is the greatest Western of all time. The Searchers, which is regarded as the greatest Western of all time. The Quiet Man, it's the one that won Wayne the Oscar. And all, like, so many, not only just good films, but like defining Westerns. And then going all the way back to, like, I think their first was Stagecoach in 1939.
It's that old of a movie.
Yeah, it is. It's almost 100 years old. I want you to think about that. Seriously, it's 19 years. It's less than 20 years from being 100 years old. That's crazy. But they just did so many. They arguably defined and arguably created the Western genre. I couldn't not put them on the list. Matter of fact, I had a list. They were number 10. I came up with another one to add to the list, and it moved number 9 off the list. I refused to take them off the list. That iconic. All right, number 9. And the one that I am really surprised it wasn't on his list. Alfred Hitchcock and Jimmy Stewart. Rear Window, one of the greatest thrillers, if not the greatest thriller of all time.
Man Who Knew Too Much.
Rope, which is a criminally underrated Hitchcock film, if you ask me.
And a technical marvel as well, because they were able to convincingly make that film look like it's all one long shot.
Yes, yeah. So just another, like, what Hitchcock was able to do to revitalize Stewart's career, and turn him into, like, from this, I don't know, it's weird to say it, to compare him to a different actor who I would just simply turn around and compare back to Jimmy Stewart. Like, Stewart going from stuff like basically being the Tom Hanks, the, great actor who could put in a great role, but realistically was mostly known for comedies. And
he went from It's a Wonderful Life,
to turning him into, in Rear Window, like the biggest huge voyeur creepy guy. It was a very, very interesting, and their partnership just worked really well off. They worked really well together. All right, number 8, and this it was higher on the list at one point, and then I realized, I don't know, it got bumped down, and you'll see why when I name higher, but it has to be on the list. Tim Burton and Johnny Depp.
Oh yeah.
Ed, go ahead. Sorry.
Oh no, go ahead.
I was going to say Ed Wood, which is, I think, their best film together. I actually think it's one of Depp's best films, if not his best film, and it is Burton's best film, if you ask me.
Absolutely.
Sleepy Hollow, which I thought was great. Edward Scissorhands is classic. Just great films, and it's to the point where, like, I know people that when I go, oh yeah, Johnny Depp, you saw him in, like, Pirates of the Caribbean. He's like, yeah. And I'm like, do you know who directed that? And they're like, oh yeah, it was Tim Burton. They just assume Tim Burton directs all Johnny Depp movies.
Yep.
they're that tied together. I mean, at this point, I could also put his wife in there, but
Helena Bonham Carter. Yeah. Yep.
So, all right, number 7, and this could be back and forth to where if 7 and 8 almost are like, I don't want to say tied, but they can flow. There's a natural flow to them. It's Quentin Tarantino and Sam Jackson.
Mm-hmm.
Pulp Fiction, which is my favorite Tarantino film. Jackie Brown, my second favorite, who's in The Hateful Eight, Django Unchained. Like, if Tarantino was to draw down the perfect actor, all those points are Sam Jackson. Mm-hmm. Strong, incredibly masculine, aggressive, witty as hell, swears every 3 words. Like, Sam Jackson just is the embodiment of what I think Quentin Tarantino thinks is the perfect actor. So, and he's in, I think he's in all of his movies, even if like he's in Kill Bill, but he's only in that one itty bitty little scene.
Or like he just does a voiceover or something like that. Yeah,
exactly. So, all right, and again, that I feel like their relationship is very similar to Tim Burton. I feel like Tim Burton drew the perfect actor; he drew Johnny Depp. So they're right there neck and neck. Yep. All right, the next one, somewhat similar of a vein, but I think that both of them did so great things apart that they didn't need to be together, but when they came together, they made something even better. John Carpenter and Kurt Russell. The Thing, Big Trouble in Little China, Escape from New York. I'm not going to talk about Escape from LA. It's trash. Like all of those films are amazing, and they're amazing because of what Carpenter could bring out of Kurt Russell, who was, again, previously to that, he was. And if you look at Carpenter's work outside, and he does some good work outside of Carpenter, Russell is basically a witty action hero, or he's a witty romantic lead. With Carpenter, he is like 10 times more of an interesting character in all 3 of those films.
Yep.
So,
100% agree with that one.
Yeah. All right. Number 5, top 5. And again, this is my most snooty of lists. I feel like this is the one where I feel like, I shouldn't say snooty, but it's the one where I try to choose some fun stuff here and there. This is the top 5. Well, I should say the top 4. Number 5 is a little kind of fun. But the rest are like hard hitting kind of things. But anyway, all right, number 5. Again, it's a great partnership between the 2 characters. I just think that what they did together is almost better than what they did apart because of the play between them.
Yeah.
Wes Anderson and Bill Murray. Life Aquatic with Steve Zissou, Rushmore, The Royal Tenenbaums. I cannot imagine any of those films.
I would say Moonrise Kingdom you can throw in there as well.
You totally could. You totally could. I cannot imagine those 3 movies if you were to remove Wes Anderson and leave Bill Murray, wouldn't work. If you were to leave Bill Murray or take out Bill Murray and leave Wes Anderson, they wouldn't work. Like, no. They're perfect together in those 3 films and 4 films.
Wes Anderson is really good about motivating one of the most infamously stubborn actors in Hollywood, because Bill Murray is legendarily stubborn. So it's all the more credit to Anderson.
Yeah. Now, speaking of legendarily stubborn and hard to work with actors, number 4, Werner Herzog and Klaus Kinski. No one, not even Brando, was as stubborn as Klaus. Again, I mentioned this before. Klaus literally at one point, they'd get into such huge arguments. At one point during the filming of, I think it was Fitzgeraldo, he held a gun to Herzog's head and everyone thought he was going to kill him. And they kept shooting after that. That's how crazy of a relationship those 2 have. But I mean, when I like 3 of the films that I think are the best that they work with together, Nosferatu is a fun one, but is not considered. It's good. Don't get me wrong. I love the film, but like Aguirre, The Wrath of God, and Fitzgeraldo are both considered in some of the best films ever made. I mean, Fitzgeraldo, they move a boat over a mountain. They did that. That isn't a trick. They actually did it. No wonder it was a tense day on set. So, but no, amazing. No one else. Like if you watch a Klinsky in under any other director, it's not the same. To the point where I've seen him in other films, and I actually thought it was a joke. Like what Herzog was able to get out of him was just a completely different level. Where I've actually seen people before, because I've heard people say Herzog's arguably one of the greatest directors of all time, and I've heard people say Kinski is one of the greatest actors, but only together. Herzog's good, don't get me wrong, but together they're next level.
Oh, yeah.
Speaking of next level, number 3. And I don't normally do this, and I think it's the first time on any of these I've done it. For number 3, I have a tie. I'll start with if I gun to my head, I had to move one, I'd probably get rid of this one, but I don't feel right about it.
Okay.
Sergio Leone and Clint Eastwood. Fistful of Dollars, Few Dollars More, The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. Now, you could argue they're a trilogy, but it's pretty clear they weren't designed to be a trilogy. They just kind of work.
Yeah, they're just separate film. And even Eastwood doesn't carry the same name for each film. So
exactly.
Yeah.
So, I mean, technically he doesn't have a name. He's called, I think, Joe in Fistful of Dollars. He has absolutely no name in For a Few Dollars More. And he's
Blondie.
called Blondie, which is very clearly just a nickname given to him by Tuco in The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. And in Fistful of Dollars, he's only called Joe by the Undertaker, and I think it's more like, hey, Joe, he's an average Joe. I don't know what to call you because you have no name, kind of thing. So I think he is the same character, but clearly the films aren't, I don't want to say in the same universe. It's just more like, it's not the journey of one character. It's just what a character would do in 3 different situations, kind of. But yeah, they're working together. I mean, Sergio Leone did great things outside of it. Eastwood did great things outside of it. But together, they define that spaghetti Western. They revitalized the Westerns so good. And it made Eastwood's career. It brought Leone to the American public. Now, I cannot bring them up in their correlation, specifically with Fistful of Dollars and A Few Dollars More, without bringing up another set. And this is why they're tied for me. It's Akira Kurosawa and Toshiro Mifune. Again, we talked about it when his list. Yojimbo, which is just the originator. Fistful of Dollars is just a Yojimbo remake, Western remake. And Roshonan is Few Dollars More is just a remake of Roshonan. And, you know, Seven Samurai is one of the most remade films of all time. It's so iconic. It's so good. And even the Hidden Fortress, which George Lucas has gone on record and saying he basically stole the plot of the Hidden Fortress to make Star Wars. So all you Star Wars fans out there, it's because of Akira Kurosawa that the film has any structure. There's no offense. Lucas is not known for great structure in his films.
No, he's not really known for great writing either.
No, he's not. It's a whole different issue. I'm not going to go on my rip against George right now, but yeah, no. Akira Kurosawa and Toshiro Mifune, every time they got together, it was gold. Every film they're in together is great. Now, with that said, there are films that Kurosawa did without him that are great, and Toshiro made films without Kurosawa that were great, but together, every one of their films is fantastic. All right, number 2, and one I'm a little surprised this is not his list, but I get it. Martin Scorsese and Leonardo DiCaprio.
All right.
Wolf of Wall Street, Shutter Island, The Departed, The Aviator, Gangs of New York. Every single time I see them together,
Wolf of Wall Street.
Every single time I see them together, the film, it's better than the last film they were together. And I didn't know that. Like, I saw Gangs of New York, blew me away. Then I saw The Aviator, and I didn't care about Howard Hughes, blew me away. Then I saw The Departed. I'm not a really big procedural cop detective under, that kind of thing. I think that entire genre has been killed, it's been done to death. And The Departed's amazing. Shutter Island, I literally went like, oh, Scorsese's going to try a horror film or a thriller. Yeah, this isn't going to bomb. This is probably going to end his career. Oh, crap, it's one of the best thrillers, in the last, decade. Then The Wolf of Wall Street comes out, and I'm like, is this a comedy or a drama? What is this? This is, I think at this point it's just, they're just filming whatever they want. Nope, it's one of the greatest, docu-dramas, whatever you want to call it, real made, thing. It's hilarious. It's amazing. So, again, DiCaprio does great work outside of it. Scorsese obviously does great work outside. But, he took this young muse and just elevated him. All the films are just amazing. And if they work together again on something, I just can't wait to see it. Before we get to my number 1, quick honorable mention. It was going to be on the list. It just kind of got bumped out. Mel Brooks and Gene Wilder.
Yeah.
Young Frankenstein, Blazing Saddles. I'm not a giant fan of the producers, but I admit it has its moments. They're just great together. It just got bumped out because I don't really care for the producers that much personally. At that point, they only had 2 films together I thought were great, so that's what bumped them out.
Yeah. But that's a fair assessment.
Yeah. Actually, they had a pretty tumultuous relationship. Apparently on set every day. At one point, they'd be yelling at each other. Only 2 minutes later, they'd be apologizing, and then they'd just keep filming. So, but yeah, no. just a great comedic director and a great comedic actor working well together. Number one. Oh, sorry. Is there anything you want to add?
No, yeah. That's kind of one I'm wishing I had on my list, but at the same time, yeah, the two films I can only think of, and like we said, the three minimum.
Yeah, I tried to set a precedent for three myself.
Yeah.
So, number one, Mr. Hill has it on his list, and it's just they're so good together. It's Martin Scorsese again, but this time with Robert De Niro. Casino, Taxi Driver,
Goodfellas, Mean Streets.
Mean Streets, The Irishman, Cape Fear, The King of Comedy. They don't make bad films together.
No, they don't.
Like, I actually went through and all the other ones, well, I shouldn't say all, most of the other actors and directors have at least one film where I'm like, I don't think that's really that good. Or, I mean, Sergio Leone and Clint Eastwood don't, but like, because they only have the three. But like, and again, every one of them has like something where it's like, I wasn't as that thrilled about it. Scorsese and De Niro don't make anything but gold. And again, it's just like this amazing that he found De Niro earlier in his career, and then they just grew together. Now, again, De Niro's done great work outside of it, and Scorsese's done great work outside of it, but they just elevate each other together. And then also to give Scorsese even more props, to then later in his career go, hey, you know what? I think I found this DiCaprio guy. I'd like to also use him in a lot of my movies. To find two different actors and to elevate them to saying, I actually think brings Scorsese to a point where I can honestly say he might be the greatest director of all time.
Yeah,
that's crazy. But their collaboration together is just, all of those films are gold. If you haven't seen them, stop what you're doing and go watch them. They're all amazing.
Oh yeah, no argument for me on that one. Great choice.
Yeah. All right. What about you?
All right, my top 10 actor-director partnerships. Number 10, this is probably the only Italian horror entry on my list, so...
I don't believe
it. It is director Lucio Fulci and actress Catriona McCool. These two worked on what many call the Gates of Hell trilogy, even though the third film doesn't actually have a gate to hell. It's City of the Living Dead, The Beyond, and House by the Cemetery. Just... three very visceral, atmospheric, probably Lucio Fulci at his peak.
Very weird Italian ghost zombie demon movies.
And just set in very unique locales. The Beyond takes place in Louisiana, which is a unique location. The House by the Cemetery is like a Lucio Fulci Stephen King movie. It takes place up in the Northeast. And City of the Living Dead kind of takes place in middle America. So he was able to really pick areas of America and suck out their unique charm.
Yeah, and it's a good call. I think he doesn't get enough props for highlighting lesser used, areas in his films. So that's it's a good call. And I think you're right. I think those he obviously worked really well with her. All those films are they're confusing, admittedly, but in a good way. Like they make their own sense. Yeah.
They're not coherent plot wise, but as far as visuals and imagery, there's just very few on par with Fulci.
Yeah.
Number 9, Ed Wood and Bela Lugosi, because why the hell not?
Just going to throw one out there like that, huh?
Yep.
All right.
And of course, without this relationship, we wouldn't have Tim Burton's best movie. So that's part of a legacy reason right there, too.
Sure. And kudos for coming up with one that was nowhere near any of our lists. So kudos for that.
Yeah. Number 8, James Whale and Boris Karloff for Frankenstein, The Old Dark House, and Bride of Frankenstein. Just some of the best Universal monster movies ever made.
Yeah, no, Bride arguably being the greatest horror sequel of all time. Arguably, there's a lot of contention for that. But yeah, no, great films, all three of them. And yeah, I think I don't think he got the best of Karloff. We've had this discussion before. My favorite Karloff film is completely different. But yeah, no, good stuff.
Number 7. Okay, this is Joel and Ethan Coen, but the actor is John Goodman. And when you think about it, just all the collaborations that those three people have had together, Barton Fink, The Big Lebowski, Oh Brother, Where Art Thou? It's just some of the Coen brothers' best stuff, and John Goodman was there for it.
Yeah, no, he's Goodman's obviously just a great actor, and their working relationship together, all of them, Raising Arizona. People, I always say that it's one of
Oh
my
yeah.
favorite Coen Brothers movies, and yeah, he's right there. So yeah, good call, man. Good call.
All right, number 6. Yep, it's going to be Tim Burton and Johnny Depp.
Yep.
So I really can't say much more about that. Just these two guys from the early 1990s, and I'm not a big fan of their remake of Willy Wonka. But still, the fact that these guys know each other's shorthand just translates really well on screen.
Yeah, no, absolutely. They how do I say, they are the same person, but they get each other. It'd be like if they were brothers.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay, number 5. Ivan Reitman and Bill Murray for Meatballs, Stripes, and Ghostbusters.
Solid pick, man.
Oh, yeah. Just two guys who really knew how to play on each other's creativity and comedy style. So, yeah, they worked on my all-time favorite movie, Ghostbusters. What more can you say?
I think the concept that he actually got Murray, like you said before, Murray, incredibly difficult to work with. Mm-hmm. He actually got him to act, and it speaks volume for his ability as his director.
Yeah. Number 4, Quentin Tarantino and Samuel L. Jackson, because these guys have worked on 8 or 9 films by now. So yeah.
It's getting up in that John Ford numbers.
Yep.
Need to pump those numbers.
Those are rookie numbers. All right, number 3, Martin Scorsese and Robert De Niro, because duh, it's not a list without them.
Absolutely. Yep. Like it's just picking your favorite. That's all. You know what I mean? That's all you can say. Like there's so many amazing films that they have worked on together.
Oh yeah. Okay, number 2, John Carpenter and Kurt Russell.
There you go.
Yep. I got all the big ones represented on here just because, And I know you hate Escape from L.A. I know you do, but I enjoy it as just the ahead of its time satire. It was the Strike Commando of the 1990s. That's the way I look at it.
I wish I could like it like that. I can't. Every time I try to think of that, it's like that meme of like the guy's face in the war in the background, except the war is just the scene of that weird surfing scene for no reason. It's some of the worst CGI I've seen. Like, Carpenter, what were you thinking?
Yeah.
Man? You made me sad. Oh.
But I love the Shirley Walker music score, and R.I.P. Shirley Walker.
Yes.
And my number 1, you may, I don't know if you'll be surprised or not, but it's Sam Raimi and Bruce Campbell. I mean, these two guys just know each other so well. They were literally childhood friends. They grew up making Super 8 movies together. So when they were actually making big feature-length movies, it's like, okay, these guys they're practically siblings. They know each other so well. And even, aside from The Evil Dead, Crime Wave, I think, is a very underrated film. Critically panned, but just some of the sequences in there, and Bruce Campbell hamming it up is always a good time. And even the cameos by Bruce Campbell. I mean, look at the Spider-Man films.
Oh yeah, first he has to be in all of them now. Yeah, absolutely.
He gives Spider-Man his name in the first movie. He defeats Spider-Man in the second one, and then he teams up with Spider-Man for the engagement to Mary Jane. So yeah, of course, yeah, it's got to be Sam Raimi.
I completely agree with you. Mm-hmm. I wish I had him. I regret not putting him on my list. The story with that though. He was supposed to be a villain, and eventually,
he was supposed to be Mysterio.
He was supposed to be Mysterio. Yeah, so that's explained why he kept having the jobs, is because he was trying roles out, or like he was just down on his luck, and he just kept figuring it out while he was working on his magic or whatever.
But, and then we get Jake Gyllenhaal for some reason, but whatever. Yeah,
it's a different thing, but yeah, no, this was a good list. And to be honest with you, like before we started this, I had mentioned that I was pretty sure that there was going to be a lot of Hangover on my list, your list, and Hills, and there really kind of wasn't. I mean, there was some. Tim Burton's on all our lists. Kurt Russell, is Tim Burton the only one on all 3 of our lists?
That might be the Scorsese and De Niro.
Yeah, but because you didn't have Kurosawa.
Mm-mm.
And I think he didn't have Herzog.
Oh no, he had Herzog and Kinski. Yeah,
Oh,
that
but
was
you
I
did.
think number 3.
But did you?
No, I did not.
Oh
No.
yeah, yeah. So weirdly, Johnny Depp, he didn't have Quentin Tarantino. Yeah. So I think Johnny Depp and Scorsese are the Johnny Depp and Tim Burton, the Scorsese and De Niro,
De
are the
Niro,
only two
yeah.
on all 3 of ours. Wow, I thought it was going to be a lot more of the same. So wow, we are a lot more diverse than I thought.
So yeah, those were our selections for our top 10 actor-director partnerships. Feel free to leave your selections in the comments below. We always like to hear what you think.
Absolutely. Like I'm really interested now because some of these I didn't think of. So I'm seeing where some other ones that people maybe have maybe they know that we didn't. So I'll be interested to hear that.
All right, so I think on that note, we're going to go ahead and sign off here. This is Mackenzie Lambert for Making the Movies.
This is John Cleveland.
All right, have a good night, folks.
Bye.
Hey folks, Mackenzie Lambert here, host for Making the Movies, here with another segment of What a Year, joined with my good friend John Cleveland.
Hi, everybody.
This year we're going to explore is 2010.
Why not?
Yeah, which surprisingly was a year that it wasn't until I was going back through that I realized there were actually some really good ones this year.
Yeah, this was one where there was a lot of, okay, I like it, but I wouldn't get a top 10. And then when I started writing that top 10, it got a little hard. There's a lot of really solid ones.
Yep. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and just quickly go through my selections, my 3 honorable mentions. First is Splice, which was produced by Guillermo del Toro.
Yes.
Probably one of my favorite theatrical experiences because I was in a crowded theater, and then when a certain scene happened, you probably know what it is.
Exactly which scene it is.
Yes. Half the theater just got up and left in disgust.
Yep.
And it was absolutely amazing.
I would have loved to be in. That is a theater. I'm not a big theater guy. I like theaters, don't get me wrong, but I am not. I did not suffer for 2 years when I couldn't go to a theater. I am a weird moviegoer in that. But I will say, there's the times I want to see things. I want to experience a crowd reaction. Boy, is that a good one.
Yes. Yeah. Next honorable mention is Red, which is an action movie. I guess, yeah.
It's a dumb shooter where past their prime heroes got to do it again, and it was fun.
Yep. Bruce Willis, basically being Mr. Magoo with all this action stuff happening around him and doesn't react. But I love Brian Cox as the former Russian operative.
I love them all, but I'm sorry. There's one actress, spoiler alert, who steals the movie.
Yeah, Helen Mirren's pretty awesome in this movie.
I mean, Malkovich is there overacting his head off. It's just it's a dumb, fun flick.
Yep.
Yeah.
And my last honorable mention is actually a remake, and I think it's actually probably one of the better remakes, The Crazies. Based on the George Romero film.
That was a pretty good remake.
Yeah. And looking at it now, while we're in, still kind of in a pandemic, it's very uncomfortably relevant.
Correct.
Yes.
Yes.
All right, now for my main 10. My number 10, Toy Story 3.
Okay,
which, you know what? I mean, I grew up with those characters, and it's like, wow. When I thought it actually was over, we thought this was going to be the last one. Granted, I should have known better because it was Disney, but still,
that logo at the beginning should have been a big indicator.
Okay, this made even more money than we expected, so we got to make more. But at the time, I thought, wow, this is actually a really good way to end with these characters. Number 9, Kick-Ass, mainly just because I love Nicolas Cage in this movie as Big Daddy, basically Batman with a shotgun.
Yes. Yeah, no, I liked Kick-Ass. I'm not gonna, there's no argument here. Again, I am gonna call it dumb fun, and that's not denigrating.
Nah,
you can't watch, Francis Ford Coppola movies all day. I don't care who you are. That's not how cinema. Cinema's about enjoyment and entertainment. Sometimes I want to just sit down, turn my brain off, and watch something go boom.
Yep. Sometimes you just want junk. You gotta have junk food sometimes.
Exactly.
Let's see, number 8, Micmacs, which is Jean-Pierre Jeunet making his own version of a superhero movie.
I didn't watch it.
It's really good. It's a bunch of circus freaks who are going after war profiteers. So a couple of people who are making money off of landmines and guns, and it's basically these outcasts being superheroes. And
He made this film in 2009, so clearly, he saw 2008, which had Iron Man, Incredible Hulk, Dark Knight, Hellboy 2, and he's like, okay, let me do an alternative to those movies, but still have some of the similar themes of it.
Yeah, I think his directorial viewpoint is always a counterculture response to what is I'm not going to say in the news or what is trending as a society at that moment.
Yep.
So yeah, I like him as a director. I'm slowly looking at more of his films and stuff. So I'm going to have to check that one out. I've never seen it.
Number 7, The Losers.
Yeah, it's a great film.
Yep.
It's just a great film.
And probably this is one of those where it's like, wait, this is a comic book movie? Yes, it is.
Yes, 100%.
Yep. Number 6, Temple Grandin, which was actually first a made-for-TV movie, but it was actually shown here in Buffalo theatrically in 2010 as part of a fundraiser for autism services.
Didn't know about it.
Yep. Yeah. Claire Danes is really good. This is about Temple Grandin, who tried to configure ways to be more humane with animals in the meat industry, actually putting them down in a less stressful manner.
Yeah. Okay. Okay.
My number 5, Waking Sleeping Beauty, which was a documentary about the Disney Renaissance of the late 80s to early 90s. This is where they covered The Little Mermaid to Beauty and the Beast to Aladdin to The Lion King.
So it's the after they finally got their butts together after Don Bluth.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. Okay. Yep. This is where you had whatchamacallit, Michael
Eisner.
Michael Eisner, yes. Yeah. This is when he
the Eisner era. Yep. And you're right. Those are just I will always take a pot shot at Disney and if I can, because they are the worst thing to happen to cinema in a long time, and it's not for any specific reason. It's a business reason why. If you think them owning half of all films that are released is a good idea, you just aren't paying attention. With that said, I also was a kid. Aladdin's an amazing film. Like all the Disney Renaissance was great. There's a nostalgia pop there. I 100% get it. Yeah.
My number 4 is probably one that not many people have heard of. It is a Mexican neo-Western called La Soga, which is The Rope. And so it's basically about a Mexican police officer who gets revenge for murder of a loved one.
I would like to watch that.
It feels very much like what I would expect, like a modern-day Sergio Corbucci movie.
Okay.
So, yep.
Okay, somewhere between the spaghetti western and the
It's more of a gazpacho western, Mexico. Okay. So yeah.
Well, no, I was going to say somewhere between a spaghetti western and the early work of Robert Rodriguez.
Fair enough, but without that over-the-topness of Rodriguez, this is probably actually closer to maybe No Country for Old Men. That level of grittiness, or Hell or High Water.
Yeah. Shut up! I want to watch it now. Like you're not. It's yes, more, please. Yeah, 100%. Those are two of the greatest films made in the last 20 years.
All right, my number 3, The Social Network. This, if you didn't need to hate Mark Zuckerberg more than you already do, just watch this and you'll realize, wow, this guy is a
monster,
piece of shit. Yeah,
I really will say I liked it. I'm fine with it getting the praise it's getting. I'm actually really fine with it growing in its influence and its praise over time. I will say the thing I am most impressed about that film is just it is a biopic where the person who is alive could easily have stopped that movie from getting made.
Yep.
And he didn't, and I will always at least, because biopics, we all know this. If it's a person who's alive, it's going to be a nice biopic. Or if they're a criminal, it's going to paint them as the worst human being ever. Occasionally, there's that one. He was actually a person before he skinned all those women alive or something, whatever. But usually a biopic with a living individual is just a puff piece. To the point where, like, I liked the Queen movie. It's kind of pretty clear the Queen had an executive producer role in that movie. Because they're painted as being perfect. And not having anything to do with anything, and it was all the lead singer. It was
where you compare that to a movie like The Founder, where they show you just how much of a bastard,
of a horrible human being. Yes, that he ruined. I mean, that movie maybe even paints him a little more mean than he was. But again, he's dead. Again, that's another example of one I'm a little surprised McDonald's didn't just bury in legal action, because it doesn't paint them as great, but isn't really about them. Weirdly, it's not about them at all, if you think about it. Whereas that movie, I have to give credit. Zuckerberg could definitely have buried it. He could have now banned it on social networking, and like he could have banned it on Facebook. He could have done, and he didn't. He seems generally okay with the fact that it's kind of critical of him.
Yep.
Like even the Apple biopic, which is also highly critical of Steve Jobs, he was dead.
Yep.
And so like it didn't matter that the movie's just about how big of an asshole he was.
I'm waiting for the Elon Musk movie and just to see.
Oh, that already happened. No, the Elon Musk movie biopic already happened. It's a Sonic movie. If you do not tell me that Jim Carrey's just Elon Musk, you're not paying attention. I'm serious. Jim Carrey is one of the greatest actors alive, and no one is giving him the props for the amount of layers to his roles he's been doing recently, and that is clearly him making fun of Elon Musk. It is beautiful in how obvious it is without being obvious.
All right, I got to go revisit that movie just for that.
Yeah, 100%.
All right, and let's see, my number 2, another remake of a really good one, the Coen Brothers version of True Grit.
Oh, yes. Yes. I grew up, my dad was a huge Western fan. John Wayne was all the time on the TV. I love the original. I still say it's the scene where he turns around, puts the reins in his mouth, and charges 3 men on horseback. Is on, like, it's a macho scene, but it's also a really narratively cathartic scene. It's a good scene for the moment. It's great. Richard Cogburn, one of the best Western heroes of all time. And let's be clear, I don't think I've read John Wayne's biopic, and I've heard more stuff that's come out of it. He's a horrible human being.
Yep.
A very obvious product of his time. But at the same time, he was the cowboy. That's just how it works. I'm sorry. It just was, artist and thing. You can separate it. He didn't kill anybody. He just had a lot of misogynistic and racist fucking viewpoints. But that original, great. So when I went in, even with Jeff Daniels being one of my favorite actors, and the Coen brothers being amazing, some of my favorite directors, I went into that movie going, okay, please don't screw this up. Please make it
not like they screwed up Lady Killers, which was horrible.
Yeah, I don't agree with that at all. The remake's better.
Okay.
Yep, I will fight. I will die on this one. Because the original wasn't very good, and they turned it into a dark comedy one of the greatest dark comedies of all time. Tom Hanks' transcendent role, in my opinion. But yeah, no, True Grit, I rewatched it, loved it, fell in love, amazing. It made that girl's career.
Oh,
she's at Marvel. She's in Marvel movies, casting Marvel paychecks.
Yep. And it actually proved to me that Matt Damon can act.
Yeah, I mean, I've known that for a while. I don't understand the hate for that boy, but yeah, no, 100%. Write this down right now. Matt Damon, assuming his career continues on the trajectory it's continuing, will be going down as one of the greatest actors of his generation. I just truly believe that to be true.
And Josh Brolin was scary as hell in this movie.
Josh Brolin is very good at the very specific roles that he can take.
All right, and last but not least, my number 1, Inception, from director Christopher Nolan. Just one of the weirdest heist movies I've ever seen.
You can, I will say this, because I'm just going to say it right now. Inception's also my number 1. Because if it isn't, I would like to have a conversation with you about the films you saw. With that said, there is a very close number 2 for me, but you'll notice there's a commonality to them. But like, it's one of the greatest directors alive working. It's one of the greatest actors alive working. It's one of the greatest script writers alive working. Yes, you could argue it is very similar to an anime. I can't remember. Paprika. Yes, 100%. And it should have been acknowledged in the press somewhere. And if that was true, the movie would be flawless. It is the most influential science fiction film since The Matrix. It is still being aped today. Such a good film.
Yep.
It's just...
The visuals of Doctor Strange with Benedict Cumberbatch owe so much to this movie.
Yeah, that's just a knockoff of so many things. I hated that movie. But yes, 100%. And again, we've mentioned it previously. Trailers. For about 5 years after that movie came out, all the trailers were just trailers for Inception with new actors trying to... That's all it was. That thing, you still hear in trailers today. It's amazing.
Yep.
And of course, it also brought one of my favorite kind of parody moments. Someone took the locomotive going down the main of the street. They superimposed Thomas the Tank Engine, and they've got his music playing in the
That's
background.
hilarious. Also, I would like to point, no actor who's in that movie hasn't ever been nominated for an Oscar or a Golden Globe or has won multiple of them. Like all of them.
Yep.
Like that would be a movie where if you like, we're gonna make it today with the same cast. Cool, triple the budget. Why? They have to be paid.
And the ski sequence, it's like, wow, this is like a perfect homage to On Her Majesty's Secret Service.
Everything in that movie is perfect. That is a perfect film. It has no flaws. I'm sure somebody up in the please, if it has a flaw, let me know. But I'm going to tell you right now, I don't think it does. So yeah.
So yep, those are my selections for 2010.
Fantastic, fantastic. All right, I looked up all 7,949 films that on IMDb's list of movies made in 2010, and here's my top 10.
Half of them were probably Bollywood.
You're not wrong. You're not wrong at all. I could list a whole bunch of honorable mentions, but the only ones I want to really give a shout out to aren't necessarily the greatest films. They probably wouldn't have been in my top 10. I just think they need a little bit more attention. The Wolfman, I think, was a great remake. Ip Man 2, fantastic film. Predators was better than it really
had any right to be.
Yeah. The Other Guys was amazing. I want to see those two in more movies together. Frozen, but not the one you think of.
Oh, the horror film. Lift. Yes.
That's more of a cheeky joke because it's not an amazing film. It's just funny because it's got the name. Scott Pilgrim versus the World was a fun watch. Hot Tub Time Machine was hilarious. The Last Exorcism was good. Way better than I thought it was going to be. Winter Bones made me go read the book. It was so good. Also, I have to cop out. I hate Mark Wahlberg as a person. He is one of the worst human beings on planet Earth who is also a celebrity. Like, I'm not talking politicians or stuff like that. Like, he is a horrible human being. He is great in Winter Bones. He plays that.
That was Jennifer Lawrence, right? Or am I thinking? Okay,
I do not know how to pronounce her name. Saoirse.
Saoirse Ronan.
Yes, okay. That was her, and she's the heart and soul of that movie, 100%. From Paris with Love, which is another horrible human being. Staying Alive, Grease.
Travolta?
Yeah, Travolta is not a great person. It's him in an action flick, and it's good. Yeah, all I can say is that I can't explain why it's good. It just is.
Okay.
Bunraku, which is a really underrated film that uses the Japanese art of Bunraku is like a story element, kind of their narrative structure. It's interesting.
Okay.
It's a fun watch. And final honorable mention, Dylan Dog, Dead of Night. It's a fun movie.
Wow, yeah.
It's a deep cut. Yeah, and if you like comic books, it's a comic book movie.
Based on an Italian comic, and you've got Kurt Angle in it.
Yep. Well, yeah. It stars our one-off Superman,
Brendan Routh.
Yep. So, but here's my top 10. I'm going to kind of fast through these because really, I'm not going to sit here and tell you, except for the last couple, that they're the best or anything. These are favorites. These are in no way the best. Yeah. I'm going to say you should watch them if you haven't seen them, but if you don't like them, I get it. Number 10, I Saw the Devil. One of the greatest drama/thrillers/horror, technically, films I've ever seen. South Korean, let's just say it is the best revenge film I've ever seen. Star on that because I know there's a lot of really good ones out there that I'm probably forgetting, or at least not thinking, oh wait, that is a revenge film. It's worth your watch, trust me. But just realize it's a dig two grave, it's the Sensu, first man to go out to seek revenge must dig two graves, or that statement. It is one of those movies.
Okay.
Number 9, just a dumb comedy. She's out of my league. Just a guy ends up, the whole premise is a guy ends up going on a date with like a 10 out of 10, a beautiful woman.
I think this is Jay Baruchel, who was part of that group. Yeah.
Yes. Hilarious, great, funny movie, but it's a dumb, you'll see it on like TV at like 9 p.m. kind of movies. I don't even think it has any nudity in it. It's just a lot of like 20-something or 30-somethings humor. Number 8, one of the best found footage movies of all time, Troll Hunter.
Why didn't I have that on my list?
That was the one. It's the one I thought you'd call out 100%.
Damn it!
If you like found footage and you like black comedies, watch Troll Hunter. If you don't like found footage, watch Troll Hunter. If you don't like black comedies, watch Troll Hunter. I have a friend who does not like I turn the movie on and he goes, "Oh, not one of these." I'm like, "Just watch." By the end of it, he's like, "I like this. Yes. I want more of this."
Yep.
Just great film.
I remember showing it to my mom, and she's not big on horror movies, but she loved it.
Yeah. Number 7, as you've mentioned before, and I know I talked about in when we did the list of comic book movies, The Losers.
Yep.
It's just The Expendables, but better.
Yes.
Number 6, which, if I'm being honest, probably should be higher on the list, but I was honest with myself, and I've only seen this movie twice, and I've seen the other ones a lot more. It's Black Swan.
Yeah.
Amazing film. Amazing film. Revitalized Natalie Portman's career.
Yep.
Just an amazing film. If you haven't seen it, see it. That's all I can say.
I'll probably say it's a better Suspiria remake than the Suspiria remake.
Which I didn't hate. Which I didn't hate. I thought I was gonna, and I didn't. But yes, it is a better it is a better Suspiria remake. All right, number 5. Just hear me out. It's Who Killed Captain Alex. Now just
action.
Just hear me out. All right. I know I've said it before. I love bad movies. I like making fun of them and stuff. And Who Killed Captain Alex is not a great film. It's a bad movie. It's Ugandan, it's made in Uganda. It's part of a wave of what is sometimes referred to as Nollywood films. You know how you've heard of Bollywood, which is an India version of Hollywood. And matter of fact, there's multiple ones. Well, Africa has the same thing. And Uganda has a group of people getting together, making movies. And I swear to you, I have never seen, I've seen documentaries on them, I've seen interviews with them. I wish someday to love film as much as these people love film. These people, they have nothing but family and their passion, and they are making films that fill me with nothing but love and joy. If you watch one of these films and you don't end up laughing at one point, you and me aren't going to get along. You just need to let joy into your heart, because these people both love what they're doing and are also 100% perfectly fine with making fun of themselves. And Who Killed Captain Alex is just hilarious. Let me sell it to you. Ignoring that it's made on you've heard of no budget movies? Inverse that. This movie was made with the absence of wealth. The movie's hilarious, and at all times, because it's just a cultural thing, when they make movies, they have what is called VJs, who is on the audio track. It is a man hyping the movie, commenting on the things that are happening in the movie, likely for the first time viewing it, is hard encoded into the audio track. So it'd be like watching a movie with a dude who's just cranked to 11, having a blast in the room with you talking while it's on. And I know that might not sound fun. It's so much fun. It is hilarious. Do yourself a favor. Watch Who Killed Captain Alex. And then after you watch that, it's got a sequel called Bad Black. Watch that too. Matter of fact, watch all of those movies from Uganda. They're hilarious.
And they actually are making a Who Killed Captain Alex too.
Yes, they are.
Yep.
All right. Number 4, another comedy, but this made in America, a lot more budget and stuff. It's, in my opinion, I know Scream started the meta commentary horror film. This movie perfected it. Tucker and Dale vs. Evil.
Oh God, yeah, that's another one I regret not having on my list.
I'll sell it to you this way. I'm not gonna do anything else. It's real simple. What if they made a kids go in the woods and get killed by redneck kind of, slasher film, except from the standpoint of the rednecks, who in no way are killers. Everything's a miscommunication, or almost everything's a miscommunication. There's a bit of a twist and there is a killer involved, but everything's a miscommunication, and it's just hilarious. It's probably Alan Tudyk's best role.
Yes, this is the movie that made me fall in love with him.
I mean, Firefly was for me, but yes.
Yeah.
All right. So watch it. It's hilarious. The top 3, however, it isn't about hilarious. It isn't about any of that. These are the three. I will argue these are the three best films that came out. That not only my favorite. This is pretension speaking. I know that. Number 3, and Catch Me Tomorrow. These might technically switch a little, but I think this is pretty hard line. Number 3, The American. It's the movie that I can show to you and be like, you like George Clooney is a good actor, but you want to know why he's a good actor? Let me show you this movie. It's got maybe 4 actors in it. It is one of the most compelling thrillers I've ever seen, and there's almost no action. It's a very sparse plot too. It is just nothing but George Clooney carrying the plot on his raw talent. It's amazing. He plays an assassin. That's all I need to say.
Here's something that'll blow your mind. One of the actors from Cannibal Holocaust is in that movie.
I knew that.
Yep.
I know that. I love The American. The American's one of those I slip into friends. Like, I'll be like, hey, happy birthday. Why'd you buy me this random George Clooney movie? It's good. It's just a movie I love. Mm-hmm. Right. If you haven't seen it, highly suggest it, but I am going to tell you, if you go, I hate this movie, it's boring, I get it. It's not your thing. But there's a slice of people out there who are going to be like, this movie, why have I never heard about it before? It's a very European movie, if that makes sense. It's an American-made European movie, if that makes sense. All right. Number 2, and the only film that is, like I mentioned, Inception's my number 1. You guys already know that. I said it. Number 2 is the only film that was right up there with being, is this better? It's Shutter Island.
Yeah. That's...
Which is Leonardo DiCaprio again. That year is the year that I went, he needed an Oscar. He's got to fight a bear to get an Oscar. Like, no. These 2 movies both deserved him to win an Oscar.
Oh, and for all those people who are like, oh, Scorsese only does gangster movies.
Wrong. So wrong. You're wrong. Yeah. No. Amazing film. Incredibly. It's not incredible. Like, I want to put this out. I've watched movies that are more complex. I've watched movies that are more interesting. But for a major Hollywood release, starring one of the most expensive actors alive, to make a movie like that was really impressive to me. So it's just a phenomenal film. It gets better after you watch it a second time.
Character actors galore, just because
it's
there's
just
so many.
Full of character actors. Ruffalo in his probably best role, because I'm sorry, he's a horrible Hulk. Like, it's just a great.
Jackie Earle Haley is one of the inmates.
Yeah. Everything about that movie is good. It's it's just a fantastic film, and then that gut punch reveal at the end, because it has a twist ending, and then it's got a gut punch reveal, and that gut punch reveal is so amazing. When you really realize what he's saying in that moment, it's just phenomenal. And then, of course, number 1 is, as mentioned before, it's Inception. Yep. We could have a podcast. The entire podcast point is talking about Inception and trying to decipher what the ending means.
Yep.
And it's just, to do that, you don't get films like that anymore. And again, I think the best way to describe Inception is it's simply it's the most influential science fiction horror film since The Matrix. Which is amazing to say.
Yep.
So, but that's my list.
Yep. Good stuff all around. So, yep, that was this installment of What a Year for 2010. Feel free to share what you thought were some of your favorite films from that year, because
I'm sure we missed some.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. I Troll Hunter. What was I thinking on including that? But
I'm surprised the other guys was not on my list.
Yeah.
I love that movie.
So those are our selections. We're going to go ahead and end it here. So thanks for listening, and until next time, this is Mackenzie Lambert
and John Cleveland
signing out.
Bye.
Hey folks, Mackenzie Lambert here, joined with my good friend and colleague John Cleveland.
Hi everybody.
This is going to be the next installment of our series Character Actor Corner. After last time's episode with Cameron Mitchell, we needed a hard reset.
Or we needed to change it from serious acting.
Yes. So this one I think is actually a pretty big one. This is going to be David Warner.
Yes, a highly underrated actor in his time. The man just needed to be a Bond villain, like desperately.
And yet there were so many films where he was practically a Bond villain, but he just, for him to be an official Bond villain, he definitely belongs along with the likes of Christopher Lee or who's the actor that played Goldfinger? Herb Gorte, I think his name was, or something like that. But no, he was.
Yeah, no, I think he deserved to be a Bond villain. He needed to. I don't think he needed it, but it would have elevated him to have, because right now I think he sits outside the door of the great villain actors.
Yes,
he's in the doorway. He's just not in the room. Giving him a Bond villain would have pushed him in it.
And unfortunately, he did pass away last year. Actually, I don't normally name drop other podcasts on here, but he did a really good episode with Postmortem with Mick Garris. It was a live Q&A at a Comic-Con, but just the spirited conversation he has with Mick Garris is well worth a listen.
Yeah, and also and we've done this before, we occasionally talked about how the person is, like, not just the career, but if they were to, he was notable for, fans had come up to him, he was in an episode of Mystery Science Theater called Quest for the Delta Knights, and it's not a great episode of this thing, but it's a good enough. I know a couple people that really like it, and it was noted that if he was at a con and you went there and mentioned it, because a lot of actors don't really appreciate that their movie they were in, that they probably wish nobody had thought of or remembered, was getting mocked on a TV show openly. Some actors don't respond well to that.
Joe Don Baker.
Joe Don Baker being one. Okay, like, I understand though, right?
Yeah.
Like, I've talked to the director of Hobgoblins, and even he wasn't that receptive. He's like, he was okay with it. It brought him a lot of more attention than his film had. But he was a little, like, they went a little harsh, and I feel they shouldn't have. And, nobody likes to be critiqued, per se. But I will say that, from what I understand, David Warner both loved the fact that people loved his movie, that he thought nobody would ever think of again for anything. He generally was considered, from everything I've ever heard, an incredibly nice and decent man.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Good to know. Good to know.
Yes.
All right. David Warner was born on July 29th, 1941 in Manchester, England. So same hometown as the British Bulldog.
Odd call out.
Yeah.
It's a really odd call out.
He graduated from the Royal Academy of Dramatic Art in 1961.
Which, if you remember, is not where the British Bulldog went.
No. Yeah. Warner made his professional stage debut in January of 1962, playing a minor role in Shakespeare's A Midsummer Night's Dream. He joined the Royal Shakespeare Company in April of 1963 and was cast in both The Tempest and Julius Caesar. In 1963, he made his film debut in Tom Jones, not related to the singer.
Well, it's not unusual.
No.
So. That's right.
You went there.
I did.
And then he would be a regular in genre films, a career that included The Omen, Straw Dogs, Waxwork, Time After Time, The Man with Two Brains with Steve Martin, Time Bandits, Tron, Star Trek V, The Final Frontier, Star Trek VI, The Undiscovered Country, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 2, The Secret of the Ooze, Titanic and In the Mouth of Madness, and Scream 2, and no shortage of TV work either. Twin Peaks, The Adventures of Briscoe County Jr., Batman the Animated Series, the Spider-Man Animated Series, so get both of those Marvel and DC paychecks.
Oh, yeah.
Gargoyles, which that's such a, I think that's a classic.
In my group of friends, no one underrates that.
No.
It is considered one of the greatest cartoon shows of all time. But it is, amongst everyone, this generation, this current one, doesn't know about it, and they damn well should.
And this is actually a credit that he considers one of his all-time favorites, Freakazoid, which I remember is from like late 90s Cartoon Network. Yeah,
Freakazoid was a very experimental show. You know what Freakazoid reminded me of? Freakazoid reminded me of Liquid Television from MTV.
Yes.
Somebody got an idea that no one else should have said yes to. For like a week, they just said yes to every idea, and someone's like, I'm making this.
You better try and stop me.
Yeah.
Star Trek The Next Generation, and Lois and Clark New Adventures of Superman.
I will say a comparison that could be made, and I've heard it before, and I think it's a denigrating comment, so I really don't like saying it because I do respect him deeply. David Warner is TV's Christopher Lee.
Yep. Actually, when he passed away, I made the comparison. David Warner is like the William Regal of British character actors. Just because you look at William Regal, he is almost exactly like what I would expect from David Warner if he was a wrestler.
Okay, I can see that. I can see that, but I'm going to let you know, I really hope the listeners are deeply into the lore of both David Warner and professional wrestling to really like this. This I would not have assumed we were going to bring up professional wrestling multiple times in the David Warner character corner, but here we are.
Yeah.
Okay.
Warner died of cancer-related illness on July 24th, 2022.
Yeah. R.I.P. man.
Yep. All right. So, John, what are your 3 selections for Mr. Warner?
Yeah, we've gone. I've got honorable mentions, but functionally they're everything you just mentioned, so I'm not going to really get into that. I do think Waxwork from 1988 is, for
Would
me,
you like a closer look?
Yeah, for me, the Waxwork series, and yes, there's more than one, is a really good bar for horror fans. If you're really into horror, you know Waxwork's a good series. Yeah. If you're not into horror, you've never heard of it. It is my litmus test for how into horror you are. And just so we're clear, it's not like if you don't know it, I'm then happy to show it to you.
Yep, and also too, I remember when I was on Twitter before I left, just out of general principle, I would actually follow Zach Galligan, and he would always say like, "Hey Gizmo, would you like to see a Gremlins threequel? Practical effects?" And I'm like, "Forget Gremlins, give us another Waxwork."
Yeah. So, all right. So my number 3 is one of the best werewolf films of all time because it's not really a werewolf film, but it is. The Company of Wolves from 1984.
Ooh, classic Neil Jordan.
Classic Neil Jordan. Really just a kind of a mindfuck movie, if I'm being a little honest. Like, don't expect you're going to watch it, and at the end of it, you're like, oh yeah, I could explain that to another human being. I'm not saying you can't. There are weirder films, but I'd be surprised if you could.
I mean, it's like what you would expect a Grimm's fairy tale to be.
Yes. There are... It is weird. It is interesting. It is intense. Angela Lansbury's in it, which if you're sitting on your couch and just out of nowhere, Murder, She Wrote walks into the room, it's a little odd, but okay. But love it to death. Great visuals, great movie, and Warner's in there. He fits perfectly in that because he's always had that kind of weird horror vibe about him. All right, number 2. It's not a huge role, admittedly, but he's in The Mouth of Madness from 1994, and I love that film. That is my third favorite Lovecraftian film, and there's a slim difference between it and number 2 for me. So and again, he's only in it for a little bit, so it's not a great role for him, but he is in it. Yep. It makes sense that he's in it. Number 1. Because this movie has a special place in my heart. I grew up watching it long before I understood anything what was going on. I just loved it because it was fun looking. It's Time Bandits from 1981.
He plays like the Lord of Evil. Like he's
the devil without being the devil. He's the personification of evil without being evil. He's just, if we did a top 10, we've talked about it before. If we did a top 10 favorite interpretations of the devil, I would argue that's in there.
Okay. Oh, I agree with that. And what is it he says? Like, there's something wrong with me. I'm starting to feel like a positive emotion.
It's the devil by way of Brazil.
Oh yeah, it's Terry Gilliam. So
yeah. So,
all right, no, I go with Time Bandits. Just one of the most fun Python spin-off movies ever.
And it's one I'd like to see some of these more. There's a couple directors working now, and I'm not going to list all their names, and I don't even know all their names, to be honest with you. I've seen some films. I'm like, I haven't studied deep at the director's work, but I'm like, I would like to see this person make Time Bandits. And I'm not a huge, we need to make remakes, but if it's going to happen, there are a couple directors working today I would like to see helmet. So, yeah.
Oh, very good. All right, my 3 picks. My number 3 is not a movie pick, it's a television pick. Okay. It is his performance as Ra's al Ghul in Batman the Animated Series.
Oh, yeah, he brings the gravitas to
that.
Yeah, 100%.
And just the way he condescendingly refers to Batman as detective.
Yes.
It's just, he has just that perfect smug attitude that's just great.
You're nothing but a cop. I've lived for eons.
And you know what? You know what? I gotta say, Liam Neeson did a spot on impersonation of the Warner's Ra's al Ghul.
Absolutely.
My number 2, it's got to be on here. Cast the Deadly Spell.
It was an honorable mention that I
Yep.
purposely didn't bring up because I noticed you had mentioned it in his work, and I'm like, there's a reason. There's a reason.
Yes.
But if we're being clear, not to steal your thunder, it would be my number 4.
Yep. And like I said, when we did Fred Ward, this is basically Who Framed Roger Rabbit for horror fans.
Yes. Unfortunately, on a TV budget. That is my only critique of that film.
Yeah, it is the low budget, but at the same time, they make the most out of it.
Yeah, absolutely. If you're a fan of Lovecraft, if you're a fan of, again, I mentioned favorite Lovecraftian thing, that's probably number 5.
Yep. And my number 1 is Time After Time because it's David Warner as Jack the Ripper.
Yes, it is I watched it excitedly after I discovered Time Bandits at the beginning of my, John, you like an actor, you should go look at other things that actor's in. And I love Time Bandits, and I remember looking up David Warner because I liked who David Warner was, character and stuff. And I wanted to see him in other things. And weirdly, at the time, the only other thing I'd seen him in is Ninja Turtles 2, which was weird.
He could have been a perfect Baxter Stockman, but they chickened out.
They did chicken out. So I looked it up, and I got Time After Time because I'm like, ooh, as I mentioned in a previous podcast, I have a thing. I like serial killer. I like true crime. I like Jack the Ripper. So I'm like, this is great. That looks great. Didn't love the movie. It's just because it involves time travel, and I don't think that's... Time travel is a problem in film, I think. It's because it's a problem in narrative structure, because we don't perceive the world that way. So there are good time travel movies. They are rare, very rare. It's one of the reasons I don't like the Avengers film, because if you use time travel to write yourself out of a narrative plot hole, you failed as a writer, in my opinion, at a fundamental level. You should be not allowed to write anymore because you don't know how to write. Because I can just end any movie with, I invented a time machine, went back and fixed everything. It's lazy writing. But, so, it suffers for me personally with the time travel element. I wish it wasn't part of it, but outside of that giant gaping hole, to me, it is a great film.
No, I mean, you got Malcolm McDowell, who does a great H.G. Wells.
Yes.
Mary Steenburgen, this is not going to be the last time she falls in love with the time traveler.
Coincidence.
Yes.
It's weird that you get pigeonholing your career with that. Yeah.
And, of course, I like the fact that they used the time machine model from the George Pal movie.
Yes, I will say that. That is the definitive time machine, in culture, in pop culture. Yeah. So.
And just really the idea that it presents that the future, back in the past, I'm a monster. In the future, I'm an amateur.
Yeah. Yeah, it makes it. It's another thing. I thought it was a little heavy-handed in its commentary. But that's becoming a little bit more frequent now, where I don't even know if you consider it heavy-handed. I'll put it this way. I think I'm going to rewatch it, and I'll think I'll give it another viewing, but my first viewing, I don't know what I was thinking with Time After Time. I don't think I read the back cover. I think I was just engrossed by, David Warner, Jack the Ripper. This is going to be cool. H.G. Wells, that's cool. Yeah. Not thinking of what that implied. And then, I just for me. But, like I said, Warner's great in it.
Yep.
So, and Malcolm McDowell's, early Malcolm McDowell's great in basically everything.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. That 70s period.
Yeah. The 90s, just don't watch his stuff anymore.
Nah, it's like that was just,
he hasn't tried in years.
He was basically like on every direct-to-video horror movie you could think of.
Yeah, just don't. Yeah. Not anymore.
But no, that was our look at David Warner, just amazing talent with a great body of work.
I have a suggestion of who we can do next.
Okay, you know what? Yeah, who would you suggest that we do next?
Malcolm McDowell, we just talked about.
All right, okay, yep, you know what? I am down for that. Okay, so next time on Character Corner, it's going to be Malcolm McDowell.
I'll give you two. It's either him or Hulk Hogan, so you get to pick.
No, we'll
I like how you were like, no. Brain does not compute. No, we're not doing that.
No, I will do Roddy Piper before we ever do Hulk Hogan. So
that's fair, but let's stick with Malcolm McDowell for now.
Okay, so next time we'll be to go ahead and take a look at Malcolm McDowell for Character Actor Corner. Until then, this is Mackenzie Lambert,
John Cleveland,
signing off.
Bye.
Have a good night.
Because I've noticed with those.